Hey guys, I wanted to give an update on Caitlin with her sleep studies. I think I had mentioned that we were going to be doing that in the first video as far as talking about her journey, but she did do an at-home sleep study. They shipped it FedEx and had her do 2 nights, and then she shipped it back, and it was just like a wristband and a ring, had an oximeter on it, and those were insignificant. The first night, it didn't say she had any AHIs or apnea-hypopnea indexes, or she had a few, but not anything significant. The second night showed that it was a little worse. My husband, who's a sleep tech, had looked over the paperwork because we had gotten the printout from that, and on the ones where it said she had more, he felt like probably oximeter fell off because he's read enough sleep studies to know when something's off a little bit, and he said he feels like that's what's going on there. So in hopes for that, the insurance would cover her MMA surgery, we went ahead and did a sleep study in lab, and he was able to get that worked out. So she did the sleep study in lab, and it showed that she had even less apnea-hypopnea indexes or HIs per hour. So they said she had 0. I will say, whenever there's classifications on that, and whenever they do that, it has to be holding your breath for so many minutes within an hour for it to count, or so many seconds within an hour. I meant to ask my husband, but I didn't. So it's kind of like, okay, if you have to hold it for 10 seconds for that to count within an hour, then what about 5 seconds or 8 seconds? I mean, this is just me talking. I know I've bounced this off of David, my husband, but just kind of like that seems like it's not good either. But it also has to do with your oxygen levels and all that. There is one level they're not looking at as far as this is what insurance covers and this is what's recommended. And it has to do with if you go, it's ARERA, R-E-R-A, and it's basically an arousal after you've had an oxygen deprivation. And so let's say you fall into a deep sleep and you start holding your breath and have an obstruction. Well, your body wakes up so that it won't stay in that mode. And that's especially common for women. I've got a video if you have seen that already, or if not, you can look back on some previous posts. I have somebody sharing about that. It's very interesting and helpful, but women just tend to wake up more because we're kind of on alert mode when we're sleeping. As mamas, that's pretty common. So it's kind of one of those things of where maybe you have an apnea, you're holding your breath, but you don't stay there. Your body wakes you up. So then you're back into a light sleep rather than that deep sleep that your body needs. So she is not showing that she has sleep apnea. There is, they have stages of sleep that are known throughout the sleep world. It's 4 stages. The first one's stage 1, and it's when you first fall into sleep, and it's very short, like a matter of minutes. The second one is stage 2. That's whenever your body just starts relaxing, your muscles relax, and your heart rate slows down, and you're just getting ready to go into deeper sleep. The next one is REM, stage 3 or REM. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and that's when your body is doing most of no, I'm sorry, that was wrong. Stage 3 is deep sleep. That's known as deep sleep. That's not REM yet. It's deep sleep. That's when your body does the recovery and is repairing and growing, like with kids growing. So with kids, if they're not growing really well, sometimes that can be a sign of them not getting enough oxygen at night. Anyway, side note, another day. But deep sleep is what you need. That's stage 3. That's when your body's restoring and healing. And then you have stage 4, also known as REM, which is rapid eye movement. And that's when you're dreaming. And this is another side note. I just, very observant of myself. And so for years, when I'm sleeping, sometimes when I'm falling asleep, it's like I am dreaming because at the time so sleep deprived when I young kids. But when you start dreaming, I would like see things in my dream, so my eyes would be moving to that. And then another thing is whenever I wake up and I've been dreaming, it's like I kind of come out of that. I feel, or I'm becoming conscious, which that's happened before, and it's like paralyzation, which you are paralyzed when you're in REM sleep, but I've kind of come conscious before, and it's like I'm trying to move, but I can't, and I'm aware of what's going on. Like I was dreaming one time that David had come home. I was taking a nap on the couch. I was pregnant, and I was trying to wake up or trying to move and say something to him, and I couldn't. It was so scary. But I finally learned to just relax and that I would fall back to sleep, which I already was asleep. But anyway, that's sleep paralysis, or it can be. But sometimes when I come like conscious, I see pictures. It's like you're watching a TV where the screen's changing crazy fast. It's like that's what's going on. And so in my mind, it's like, that makes sense. That's REM, because your eyes are sitting there moving to all those different images. That's not scientific. I've shared that with David, sleep tech, but that's just like, that's what I've observed in my own self, and it's like totally makes sense. But do with that what you want. Just a side note. But anyway, so those are the 4 stages. However, there is a stage before that, or as far as an obstruction. So you've got obstructive sleep apnea, and even in that you have mild, you have moderate, and you have severe. And they label that according to how many times you basically hold your breath and your oxygen drops. And so if your body is in these stages of sleep and it gets more and more relaxed and you start holding your breath and having obstructions, it will count that. But if you have an obstruction and then you come back up out of that because you're not breathing, because that's what especially we women do, or younger people do, children will do this because it's just survival mode. Your body won't let you go without oxygen, so it comes back up out of that sleep so you can open things up. That's called obstructive airway resistance syndrome, or we call it UARS. So that would be the stage right before mild, which is 5 or more, apnea, hypopnea index, and then moderate, and then severe. So before those, which of those are what are known in the sleep world, you have UARS, or obstructive starts with a U. UARS. Anyway, airway resistance syndrome. This makes sense if you know what you're talking about. Anyway, that's real. It's a real thing. I'm thinking obstructive sleep apnea, but it'll come to me in a second. Anyway, UARS has to do with your airway being narrow, which I've talked about this in the previous videos. But that's where Caitlin's at. And if you look at her sleep study, and you know what you're looking at, that's what it shows. So we've put her on a CPAP machine. I may have mentioned that before previously, but she is on a CPAP machine. And that's honestly where these people who have this should be on. It would help them until they can get help with whatever the root cause is. The CPAP machine is just, it's like a Band-Aid, but it's absolutely needed if you need one. And so she is on a CPAP machine. She didn't think it was doing her any good, but she did miss a weekend of not wearing it because she didn't want to wear it when she went on to a camp somewhere. And it's my dog Nemo. Hi, buddy. Whenever she when she put it back on, she said she did feel a difference and her mind was clear and things. So the thing with that is, if you're constantly waking up from when you have an obstruction, so your body won't let you go down there and you come up. Well, when you have the CPAP machine, it forces the air in, so your body is able to relax and be able to get into that deep sleep. So just a note on that, and just want to let you know where we are on that. I will say with myofunctional therapy, what I'm learning more and more on that is it does help tremendously. Scientifically, it's proven to help with obstructive sleep apnea and UARS, and stage 3 and 4, or mild, and UARS and mild sleep apnea can reduce the symptoms to where you don't have to have a CPAP machine, and it just helps. This is everything's done right as far as the therapy, and in medical you can't guarantee anything, but according to research and what they've done on patients, it does help. If you have moderate to severe, the myofunctional therapy can reduce the AHIs, the dropping of oxygen and holding of breath, by 50% in adults and 62% in children. So for some people, they have severe. They're on a CPAP machine, but they're still snoring and suffering, and myofunction therapy would be tremendous to help with that, to reduce the symptoms there. But moderate would also, it would help tremendously. So myofunctional therapy is huge in that. One more thing I wanted to say is I talk to a lot of patients about this every day, because I do screenings for obstructive sleep apnea when they're in the hygiene chair. And a lot of people say, they know they have CPAP or sleep apnea. They don't want to have a sleep study done because they don't want to wear a CPAP machine. That's huge. And I get it. You have this thing. I will say they have different masks. Several people said, I just can't imagine feeling claustrophobic wearing the masks. There are many different types now. And if you're a CPAP wearer or should be, and you just can't handle the mask, just know there's tons out there. They have some that all they do is just stick in the nose and that's it, as long as you can breathe through your nose. There's all kinds. My dad has had one years ago, and it wouldn't fit his face just because we have this jaw. It's genetic. But then he tried one, and it really did help. So just a different mask. So stick with it. Talk to your provider. Keep pushing until you get the right one. But the reason why it's so essential is when your body, we talked about in the stage 3 in the deep sleep, when your body's in that deep sleep, it's supposed to be restoring and healing and recovering. Well, if you're fighting for oxygen, and instead of healing and recovering, you're fighting to stay alive. And so your body's still in that stress mode that it's in all day. So then you're just living perpetually in this fight or flight, stay alive mode, which is really unhealthy. And that's why it affects like blood pressure and everything else. I could go on about that. So that's what I want to say. There's one more thing I want to say, but it's gone in my mind. So I'll update later as things go on. But just wanted to talk a little bit about that and sleep apnea and where some people are. They may test with a sleep study and they may say, no, you don't have sleep apnea, but that doesn't mean you don't have UARS, upper airway resistance syndrome. That's what it stands for, upper airway resistance syndrome. So your upper airway is smaller because of all this. One last note, in my training, I watched a video of a kid who they had a sleep study done on him, and he was maybe 6 or 7, and it was a home sleep study. It came back negative, so the parents are told he's fine, he doesn't have sleep apnea, but they had a camera on him, and you watch the video, and the poor kid, it was horrifying to watch, because he is like adjusting his throat and his jaw and everything, just gasping for air at night while he's sleeping. So he was getting the air, but his body was struggling so bad to get that air. So they say it's so important when you're watching a kid sleep, or whenever a kid's sleeping and you kind of suspect that things aren't right with his sleeping, instead of doing a sleep study, it's better to video them and see if they look like, if their mouth's like open and their jaw and their throat's doing all these funky things. I mean, you can just tell they're struggling for air. So that's a helpful tool to assess your child. Anyway, I think that's it for now. Sorry for the bright lights changing by a window, and it's a sunny, cloudy day. Hope you have a great Sunday. Bye.